Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. I'm Sarah Dunaway, and with me are my co-hosts Kevin James and Hunter Markham. Kevin, are you all right?
Oh, you know me, just like working out. Get a nice soreness from that.
Huh, it looks like you were severely beaten and then nearly drowned for good measure.
Yeah, those are just the risks, of working out. You're bound to get shanked a few times if you take up the stationary bike for too long. Gym rats, very serious about their cardio.
Okay, moving on. Hunter, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well now that I've reached an understanding with someone who took too long on the stationary bike today.
You're hitting your hand with that police baton kind of menacingly, but I have to say, your new shoes look incredible. Kevin, you need to get some shoes like that.
I used to have some exactly like those.
Kevin, you look like you didn't get enough cardio the first time around.
But they look so much better on Hunter, am I right?
Okay, this episode had... what the hell has this show become? It's amazing.
It's like two different TV shows were inexplicably spliced together. You have Archie being like, let's rehabilitate the criminal youth of America through the healing power of high school football. And on the other side, mentally disturbed teens committing suicide.
Yes, with supernatural seizures and some sort of weird, secret meeting cult.
I'm glad that we're no longer pretending that these kids actually really attend school.
Wait, over under 3 times we see them in class this season.
Oof.
We've already spent more time in the women's locker room at school than we have in any classroom.
We've spent more time in the women's locker room in this show than some pornos.
That's correct.
It's out of hand. This entire show is so different than season 1, episode 1. We find out this episode that Veronica's a business owner. A bunch of
Oh my god,
stuff.
that was a shocking reveal to me.
She was Pop the whole time.
Yeah, we missed a couple things in season 2, it's safe to say.
I feel like that was the only new question I add to my list of things we don't know from previous seasons, though. Just how did Veronica become Pop?
And where is Pop?
He's in the basement. They feed him the scraps.
And so let's get to the episode title. Fortune in Men's Eyes is a line from a Shakespeare sonnet that became the title of a 1971 film exploring homosexuality and sexual slavery in prison. But I think we can all agree that this heavy reference fits much better with this episode about Archie losing his shoes.
The shoes are a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, didn't know that this film existed, but yeah, it seems like they're taking this pretty lightly. It's kind of insulting at this point.
Yeah, I get Fortune in Men's Eyes in the context of the other film, where it's the money you can make off exploiting prisoners, and Men's Eyes as the male gaze. And here's just that other movie did it, so I guess we're kind of referencing it too, but not any of the substance.
I sort of felt like they were trying to maybe foreshadow that we're going to go in this direction with the warden and Archie. But I can't tell whether I'm just hoping that because that would be interesting or whether that's really where this is going.
I think you're just hoping that, but we can always hold out hope.
I don't know where they're really going with the whole warden thing, because to my mind, there's only so much that the Riverdale writers, knowing them, can milk out of Archie being in prison before their very short attention spans snap and they're like, oh no, now he's going to be in Uganda.
Do you guys have better episode titles for this?
I'm writing them down as we speak, so maybe you go first.
Sarah, you got any?
Yeah, I just have a couple this time. Sneakerheads and Field of Screams.
That's a baseball movie. I know. I told you it was fine. It's so good. Hunter, do you have any?
Yes.
I kind of think mine are really good. I don't want to...
Mine, probably not as good as yours. So we have the underground Dylan Doily shack, which reminds me of that Christian Slater movie, Gleaming the Cube. And of course, that inspired the title Archie Bunker. And then
That's pretty good.
because of the football stuff, we have Remember the Fightings, and we are martial law.
Nice. All right, so this is a bit of a stretch, but I don't know if you remember the movie Hail Caesar, so I made Hail Seizure. Friday Night Fights, maybe a little obvious. And my personal favorite, Gridiron Gangs of New York.
Okay, that's a really good one. That should have been the episode title.
Yeah, just smashing together Gangs of New York and Gridiron Gang, but it works.
Although, here's my thing. When they're at this prison yard, they have it in this dusty, desolate area where it looks like the rest of the show's in New York, but the prison is like in Alabama.
I know. It doesn't help that they got like the cliche warden from literally every prison movie ever. Like this guy like just stepped out of the Shawshank Redemption.
And like every cliche prison warden, he has an embroidered Shakespeare quote on his wall. Like, such a cliche.
Yeah, should we get into the cultural references real quick before we jump into the episode proper?
It's Shakespeare. You know what it means? No.
Why? When JFK was shot, Jackie O didn't become president. Lyndon B. Johnson did.
And then he led us into Vietnam.
The cyanide was mixed into a sugary drink called Fresh Aid, blueberry flavored.
There's an organization called the Innocence Project. I looked into it when I was accused of JJ's murder. Speaking of food, cancel my order. I'm going to TGI Thursdays.
It's like the inside of a Philip K. Dick novel.
Everybody in the wholesale block was dancing to the Jailhouse rock.
Before leaving on my iconic road trip to California with Tony, Reggie got us fake ID so we could get into the Viper Room.
Captain Golelli said he died in the riot when he wasn't even there.
So yeah, a good number of references. I have to point out there were a weird number of, I don't know if there's a term for this, but you know, when shows use the names of things that aren't things but reference other things, like Fresh Aid instead of Kool-Aid.
It was Flavor Aid in the White Knight at Jonestown.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out.
But
Is Flavor Aid a real thing?
Yeah. People, it's funny because the expression became drinking the Kool-Aid, but it was actually off-brand Flavor Aid.
I think you mean off-brand Fresh Aid. The very real product that people in this show use.
Mm-hmm. It was grape flavor, in case anyone needs to know. Why do I know this? Who knows?
But yeah, that whole thing reminded me of a Family Guy clip where they complain about doing this in TV shows. So Hunter, edit that clip in right here.
Boy, I feel like I haven't eaten in a week. Hey, if we pass a McDaniel's or a Burger Queen, let's hop out.
Oh, that's right. We're on television.
Oh, I'd love a flame-broiled bopper.
So frustrating. We all know what we're talking about.
I mean, Riverdale's been doing that, and I have a theory about this because they very prominently feature CoverGirl products, or in this episode, Adidas sneakers. So I think their thing is you have to pay to get on this show. And if you don't lay down that entrance fee, there's no way you're going to get free publicity.
That makes sense. The Viper Room, which is one of the few things I think needs to be explained, is an iconic Hollywood nightclub. And Captain Golightly, I'm actually not positive this is a reference, but Golightly doesn't seem like a real surname to me, so I think that's just a reference to Holly Golightly from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I didn't catch that. It just seemed like an odd name, but I mean, they do reference Philip K. Dick, and apparently that was his real surname.
Yeah.
So anything's possible.
Philip K. Dick's famous novel.
I think Golightly has since become a real name because people have like adopted it because of Breakfast at Tiffany's, but I don't think it was a real last name. I think it was like a stylized kind of like poking fun name that Truman Capote came up with.
I was about to say, it's another Truman Capote reference, which we've been missing out on for a while. So, Philip K. Dick, fun fact, he actually changed his name to that. Originally, it was Philip K. Penis. There's so much to love about this episode, though. I mean, we'll get to the Jackie O, Lyndon B. Johnson references later, but
I did really like I did really like Josie just be like, by the way, I'm in AP US history.
I'm just saying, Lyndon B. Johnson was also instrumental in instituting affirmative action.
Oh, so let's jump into the episode. Archie gets processed while Jughead has this very weird narration about like, do you ever have butterflies in your stomach on the first day of school? And it's like, I don't think this really fits the tone, Juggy.
Slightly different.
I wish it was just a monologue that was about Lyndon B. Johnson, where it's like, did you know Lyndon B. Johnson nicknamed his penis Jumbo? And there's a photo of him lifting a beagle up by his ear, so he's a confirmed dog torturer.
Did you know about Calvin Coolidge's pet hippopotamus?
William Johnson hippopotamus.
R.I.P.
I did not know about that. But yeah.
Oh, Google it. That is very real.
This is great. Yeah, Archie's getting processed, and they have him getting hosed down like in First Blood. So maybe this was a reference to Sylvester Stallone movie?
Maybe.
I don't know. All I can tell you is, I mean, Kevin, you've also spent some time in a juvenile detention center. Not doing time, but spending time. This looks nothing like that.
Oh, you didn't get hosed down and have baby powder sprayed in your face every time you went to volunteer like I did? Was that just a special thing they did for me?
Yeah, it's like much more like there are like classrooms in there. It's just it's like a very, very secure school is what it kind of looks like.
Yeah, the one I was at didn't even have cells. It was just like dorms.
Right. I mean, they're locked, but like...
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, they treat this like it's a maximum security prison or just kind of like deleted scenes from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Uh-huh.
Because like day one, it's like stab someone.
Also, it just looks like it's a modeling agency with a really weird dress code. Because like, all of the men on the prison yard are incredibly handsome.
Because it's a CW show.
Except for the background men who you don't really see clearly, but you're like, oh, that one looks, like he might be like an 8 out of 10.
So Archie gets processed. He meets the warden who has the Shakespeare quote. And this warden can apparently afford a floor fan, unlike the judge in the previous episode.
I like that we've kept Archie's intelligence intact. The warden's like, do you understand Shakespeare? And Archie's like, no. What is this? English class?
I wanted Cheryl to be there. Like, oh, honey, you don't know Archie, do you?
She could suggest other sonnets the warden could have used.
I really like this warden's interest in Shakespeare, though, and I like to imagine that at home, like, his bedspread is a Beowulf quilt. He has, like, Dante's Inferno slippers. They're all handmade.
I just picture what his schedule like. Like, he's the corrupt warden, but he also likes Shakespeare. So, like, 10 a.m., rake in the bribe money. 11 a.m., assault a prisoner he knows to be innocent. 1 p.m., stirring lecture on Shakespeare. 3 p.m., appear on Fox News to rant about liberals not being supportive enough of for-profit prisons.
You just cool down with that Keanu Reeves version of Much Ado About Nothing. Was that the one?
I like that version. It's a lot of fun.
And then the warden gives Archie a really stern talking to, like, listen, murderous teen, please be respectful. I'll let you use my music room. And maybe, sometimes, if you're good, there will be an occasional conjugal visit in there with an anonymous woman holding a cello. We'll see. Be nice.
Was I the only one who didn't get a corrupt warden vibe from this first meeting? I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty chill.
I just figured that was where they were going because, I mean, it's Riverdale. They can't not do the cliche thing.
True.
Yeah.
I think I was just watching it like, oh, well, this warden's nice and supportive because this is a juvenile detention center and he's really into rehabilitating the people that walk in there. And then everything in the episode after that where it's like, beat the kids with truncheons. Really undercut this first scene for me.
He definitely gets progressively creepier as it goes on. By, like, tenfold every time he appears.
They dial it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, at Pops, Fred, FP, and I don't really know what to call him now. He's not Sheriff Keller, a Citizen Keller?
Tom Keller.
And Veronica, they find out that Archie's processing went fine, and they're all like, we're gonna hunt down the people who really murdered Casty Bullock. And Veronica's like, and I will do the equally important task of running the high school student government.
Meanwhile, I'll keep the home fires burning at Riverdale High, so everyone knows my Archiekins will be back in time for homecoming. And everything will be just as he left it.
Kevin, can you enlighten me? Can anyone enlighten me on what high school class presidents actually do? I have literally zero clue.
I don't know for sure. All I know is that Riverdale is really messing up the student government structure. I think class presidents usually are in charge of planning, like, events for the school. And I think the class president is also eventually in charge of planning reunions. But I'm not positive about those things.
Okay, I was like, if there's anyone I know who might have been, class president, it would be Kevin.
It would
No.
be.
I never even ran for student government. I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world because I was a piece of shit high school student, like we all were, and I was too good for everything, and I hated authority. But anyway, yeah. So
I think the main thing that the student body president does is get something really nice on their transcript that they submit when they try to apply to
like
college.
The right thing.
Yes.
I'll go into a rant about how the show messed up the student government structure later once we get to the discussion scenes with Cheryl. For now, just keep in the back of your mind that Riverdale's messing things up again.
Hold on. How and when did FP, Keller, and Luke Perry become such good friends? Was season 2 just a montage of them, like, going ice fishing and having snowball fights and brewing beer together in Luke Perry's garage? Because the last I saw, like, Keller was grilling FP and trying to put him away in prison for 20 years.
Oh yeah, they go to those like wine and paint nights all the time. It's adorable.
I guess as soon as Keller lost his recall election or whatever, he was like, you know what, FP, you're not so bad anymore. Fuck the police, am I right?
But they seem really close, like strangely close.
Well, we find out that they were all friends in high school later on in this episode, which is interesting.
It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next? Betty recovering from having a seizure at the end of last episode?
Yeah, apparently a stress seizure, which I guess is a real thing.
I've never heard of that.
Me neither.
Psychogenic non-epileptic seizures are a thing, but they would not diagnose her with that after a single seizure. They would be like, I don't know what this is yet. We need to run more tests and keep an eye on this for months. They wouldn't just be like, I understand what the cause is immediately.
Well, the doctor who diagnosed her was actually just a doctor of poetry.
Exactly.
And
like,
so,
well, you're not having a seizure now, so I guess you're fine. Don't worry about it.
he thought that this would play best into her character arc to have a stress seizure.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I'm so disappointed that apparently the twins being dropped into fire was just a hallucination caused by the stress seizure.
We don't actually know that for sure yet. There was no denial.
It seems like it is, though, because, like, they talk about it. I mean, they still act suspicious, but it's a weird thing to act suspicious about if it didn't happen, because it's like, what the fuck? Why would we drop babies in a fire?
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope. I'm not giving up.
I think that happened for real. The floating fire babies is a real thing, and it's totally something like that, or even worse, is going to happen again.
I'm already losing hope, but I admire your guys' optimism.
I don't think that hallucinations are typically tied to seizures.
They can be, but not that. This would be very unusual.
Yes. But we did find out that the twins' names are Juniper and Dagwood, which you named your dog Juniper after a character from Riverdale.
Yes, that was the sequence of events.
Yep.
We adopted a dog like a year ago, and then we started watching Riverdale like a month ago. We're like, hey, we should name our dog after this one. She's been going around without a name this whole time.
See? You joke, but I inherited an animal here, a cat, and I changed its name first thing. To a Riverdale-related name.
You did.
So,
Jellybean the kitten.
Yes. So, I mean, if I do it, I just assume that you guys might fall into the same trap.
Jellybean is a really good cat name.
Yes. Dagwood is just a good name for anyone, boy, man, woman, or other.
Agree.
My favorite part is like the random like consoling of Betty is interrupted so we can find out that Dilton just died off screen.
Oh my god, Dilton is dead?
Yeah.
Just so unceremoniously. What? Dilton's dead? Yup.
Jughead's just like, yeah, it happens. We're in Riverdale. Like, at this point, there have been so many murders and deaths that everyone's just like, another kid died.
Yeah, we find out weird details, like their lips were blue and they had carvings in their back, which will be important later.
Just kid stuff. Everyone's carved runes into their buddy's back. Betty and Jughead decide to embark on unraveling the murder mystery of Dilton Doily because their relationship had been getting stale, and this will spice things up.
As Betty says later in the episode, like, this is the closest thing to normal she can imagine, which is both sweet and very troubling. She needs a psychiatrist.
Hey, a lot has happened since season 1. She already has every wig color imaginable, so they need something to bring the fire back to their relationship.
Yeah, she probably has so many wigs. I assume she loaned one of her wigs out to Veronica later in the episode.
God, that was my thought. But did anyone else notice that the blue and gold offices changed from, like, this dingy little office to the Beast library from Beauty and the Beast?
I'm really into it. It was like really tall cabinets.
Yes.
I'm like, what a great decor choice. I'm loving it.
That's what happens when you have a student advisor as great as Alice Cooper to get you more resources.
Like, I want them to, like, get a ladder in there, and then they, like, have to roll it across to get to the files. Ugh, so good.
Yes, that's what it looks like in there. This was a major upgrade to that set.
Man, so back at the prison, Archie is throwing himself with Mad Dog, and in one of my favorite scenes, the captain's like, "You're gonna be bunking with Mad Dog." And then Archie turns around, looks at the only other person in the room and says, "Hey, are you Mad Dog?"
Oh, no, I'm his brother Cliff.
No, I ate Mad Dog.
Archie's not very bright.
He's really not.
We can't even be sure he was talking to Mad Dog. He may have been asking the pinup calendar.
Right, and then he, like, tries to make more conversation. Like, so long, how long have you been in here? And Mad Dog obviously is like, since 1952. Can't you tell by my record player and my pinups?
I know.
He has the oldest television I've ever seen. It's all amazing set pieces, but I don't understand why any of them are there.
I guess it's so we have hints that, like, he's getting special treatment for some reason, but it's such weird stuff he's being given. You'd think he'd have, like, a laptop and a flat screen TV, but instead it's like...
Mad Dog is very mid-century modern.
Right.
So.
He's got, like, a crank-up Victrola. He's like, oh, yeah, this is special treatment. Let me get my 45 of Perry Como on here.
I have a very specific aesthetic. Later I'll be using my typewriter to write some poetry, some beat poetry.
Sometimes the warden caters Jell-O salads just for me with this newfangled refrigerator we have.
God. Does he still call it an icebox?
Oh, for sure.
Archie, nice to meet you.
He waits for the milkman to come around.
Here's 5 good ones right here. Sit down over there. I'll give you the poop.
Great gams you got there.
Anyway, Mad Dog warns Archie, like, hey, watch out for your shoes. By the way, I definitely won't get invested in our friendship. We are not friends. We'll never be friends. We totally won't be friends.
Yes. He tries to shut him down because Archie's wearing shoes without spats, which is an offense to Mad Dog's sensibilities.
I bet you didn't even use a shoehorn to get those in. Think about the damage you're doing to the back of your shoe.
That's a quality loafer right there.
You're gonna want a nice Oxford in here, kid. Maybe some wingtips.
Maybe later Floyd will come down with the shoe shine.
Oh, God. So yeah, he warns Archie, you're gonna get your shoes stolen. And then Archie goes out to the prison yard where he immediately meets a Southside Serpent who's nicknamed Slash, which you can't just choose that as a nickname because there's already someone who's really famous with that nickname.
I think
yeah, Lyndon B. Johnson, famously nicknamed Slash.
Oh, I meant Cordell Stewart, former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. No, I'm kidding. He did have that nickname, but Slash.
Do you maybe mean the guitarist who once collaborated with Rihanna?
he collaborated with Rihanna?
Wow, that just really undercut my joke.
I have no idea what you're talking
That shocked me so much my voice cracked.
Yeah, he did one kind of bad song with Rihanna. I just thought it'd be funnier to pretend like, oh, I only know him for working with Rihanna and not for the many famous Guns N' Roses songs he made.
See, you guys thought of that. I immediately just thought of slash fiction and was like, wow, what amazing fan fiction potential because you can write slash.
Oh my
Beautiful.
god. I mean, there was Fangs on the outside who was palling around with Jughead, so I guess you gotta have a slash in there somewhere. Where's Shredder?
Slices.
My name's just Spork. We ran out of the good ones.
We were running out of menacing things that stab and cut, so, you know, we gotta make do.
I'm Senor Stabs.
Hola.
And so when Archie tries to join up with the Serpents, they're just being like, gotta stab some guy first. And Joaquin, of all people, rebuffs Archie's attempts to be with the Serpents. It's like, come on, Joaquin, be a friend.
Archie is just too chivalrous for the shipping.
Did anyone else notice the Foley effects when Joaquin pulls a spoon from his shoe? They put in this sound effect that's like a Pirates of the Caribbean unsheathing a saber.
I did not hear that.
I rewound it like
did
6
notice that.
times. I almost sent it to you guys.
I wish you had, because I completely missed that.
Well, you know how Joaquin famously wears metal socks.
Yeah, it's a metal on metal sound as he pulls like a tiny little teaspoon from his sock and lays it gently on the table.
Now I'm just picturing like a Lord of the Rings scene where like all of the serpents are like, you have my shiv, and it makes like the sword drawing or battle axe sound effect.
And my slash.
And the shoe plot line, it's so dumb. Like, I'm sure stuff like this really does happen in prison where like prisoners get beaten up for like their possessions, but it's just kind of handled in this weird laughable way with everyone catcalling Archie's shoes and whistling at them, like making those auga wolf eyes from like a Chuck Jones cartoon.
They just cannot wait to fuck those shoes.
Yeah, because he steps onto the prison yard, and the first thing we hear is someone in the background like, fresh meat! And all everyone's like, nice shoes. Do those high tops go all the way up?
Does the soul match the drape?
I don't know. They're really into the shoes, which is the one article of clothing Archie was somehow allowed to keep when he got processed.
Which absolutely he would not be allowed to keep.
It's also funny because shoes are like so specific sizes. Like, is everyone in that prison yard a size 11?
Yes.
Yeah, because Adidas also runs small. Like, you know, I'm usually an 11, but I'm 11 and a half in Adidas. So Archie should warn the people before. Like, if you're going to steal my shoes, at least try them on first.
Check the online size chart, people.
Guys, so like, you know, just, you know, for background, I'm usually a 10, but I'm a 10 and a half in Crocs. So
And the ghoulies rightfully beat up Archie and steal his shoes, but they make sure not to touch his face, which is important because no one will ever notice like the full body bruises when all of the kids shower together.
yeah, why? Okay, so a few things. Archie refuses to stab a ghoulie on day one because, you know, this juvenile detention center apparently has a lot of murder going on.
Yeah, they apparently can bribe the guards to not watch. It's like, these are juvenile delinquents.
Bribe them with what? Shoes? Shaves? Like, what are you using?
Yeah, previous seasons, it didn't seem like Southside Serpents had a lot of money, and they were supposed to just be, according to FP, dealing dime bags of weed. They don't seem like they'd be the wealthiest gang. Then these ghoulies come and confront Archie while he's noodling on his guitar. And apparently there was a drag race in a previous season we missed, which I was hoping was more like a RuPaul's drag race than a Fast and the Furious drag race.
Oh man, KJ Apa would look fantastic in drag.
He
Really would.
I bet you make a real pretty girl. Actually, I know you do from the drag race where you got us arrested. Now I'm going to beat you up and steal your shoes. But pretend I said that in a British accent because there's a British ghoulie.
Obviously.
Oh, it's so So weird. So let's quickly move on to Veronica trying to Bloomberg her way into office.
As Archie's girlfriend and former running mate, I just wanted to let you know that I'll be stepping in as interim student body president.
Is this the scene that's in the girls' locker room?
It will
Yes.
be pretty soon. Yeah, so Veronica is like, hey, Principal Weatherby, as Archie's girlfriend, I think I should be student body president now.
I am now the student body dowager queen, so...
And Weatherby says, actually, I think the vice president takes over, and that's Cheryl.
Which Veronica has huge problems with, so she storms into the locker room where we have lingering shots on Josie and Cheryl in their underwear.
Yes, high schoolers always stand around in locker rooms in their underwear. You know how adolescent girls have amazing body image? It's like very realistic.
Yeah, it makes zero sense.
It's also so funny because like it's framed specifically like Cheryl is like awkwardly scrunched into like the far left side of the frame, and there's like 2/3 of the right side of the frame just like, look at all the half-dressed co-eds in the background.
Yes, and her bra is so like skimpy that they had to put a nude bra under her bra to make it like appropriate. Did you catch that?
I didn't know.
She's wearing 2 bras.
Okay, I didn't know if that was 2 or if that was just how that one was. I don't know.
Okay, I can't guarantee, but probably it's 2. Because that's otherwise why would you have a nude bra and then be like, but also red lace? I don't know. It's weird.
It was strange. Yeah, I haven't run across that many like that. So this is where we get the Lyndon B. Johnson reference, where that's Cheryl's rebuttal to Veronica becoming president.
So Cheryl correctly says, like, I am the vice president. I succeed the president. You don't get to, like, being the president's girlfriend is not an official position. And this is correct. Student governments are in the U.S. are modeled after the U.S. Constitution. The vice president takes charge if the president cannot fulfill his duties.
And then, like, the Secretary of State.
Yeah,
Yes.
Speaker of the House.
But this is where I want to point out, like, student body presidents aren't usually a thing in high school. They tend to be a thing in college. High schools have class presidents. However, when there are student body presidents in high schools, only seniors are eligible.
I can't believe they would mess this one up.
See, the secret is Sarah and I are the Riverdale writers, and we didn't really go to high school. So
Right, we have no idea.
We're just making
like,
it up.
There's like classes and stuff, I guess. I don't know.
And I did like Josie jumping in with like, but Lyndon Johnson got us into Vietnam. I'm like, look, I've read Manufacturing Consent. I know Vietnam was a load of bullshit. But that's not a reason to ignore the order of succession of the Constitution.
They just had Josie in that scene specifically, so they're like, oh, yeah, we'll put her in her underwear too, so that we have more undressed women in here. That's it.
Yeah. Just going back to the succession thing, I like to imagine that whenever the student body president gives a speech, that like the Secretary of Agriculture of the student body gets held back just in case anything happens in the auditorium.
How does Cheryl have time to care about being student body president when last episode she was shooting people with a bow and arrow and she's in a murderous gang?
She needs to be president so she can pardon herself for her crimes.
So here's the big question I have about this episode. Literally 1 episode ago, we jumped into a gang war. The ghoulies were like, we're taking over the north side of Riverdale. And I naturally, after that big confrontation, thought that will continue in episode 2. We get none of that.
No.
There's no reference to it.
Oh, Riverdale.
Why would we have continuity?
Jughead and Betty, the Serpent King and Queen, targets basically painted on their backs, just go on jaunts in the woods at night. Wouldn't they be going everywhere with like an entourage of armed serpents just for safety's sake?
You make a really good point. It is so odd. It doesn't feel like these episodes take place in the same universe.
Yeah, it feels like we could have skipped like 7 episodes in between the last one and this one, and we didn't for once.
I also really want there to be more real snakes happening. Like, I want Betty to walk around like Britney Spears with like a giant python around her.
Wow, that was
I'm the
really what-
Serpent Queen and my anaconda do want some.
Britney Spears was your go-to, and as soon as you said that, I was thinking Alexander the Great's mom. So I had a very different background.
Yeah, I guess so.
So now we are at what you were hoping for, the autopsy scene with Dr. Curdle Cuddles.
Dr. Curdle Jr.
Yes.
Yes. So the actual doctor is like unavailable, and so he's like, aha, yes, time for my creepy son to take on this project and examine the body. And he is like the creepiest. Like, I'm sure he's the killer. I don't even know of who. Everyone, I guess.
What is up with this? Why can't one time on TV we have like a really nice, handsome coroner?
Yes.
You would really enjoy 6 Feet Under.
Or iZombie. That's a great... I mean, she's
That
a
was pretty
zombie,
fun, yeah.
but she's like a really nice coroner also. I mean, she does eat the brains, but like in a nice way.
Pinky up, like, she gets her little soup spoon ready.
Oh yeah, she makes really great recipes with the brains.
Imagine like a grapefruit spoon.
Yeah, her crudité for the brain platter is just on point.
So good.
Yeah, this guy is definitely like central casting. Like, who's the creepiest looking dude ever? Let's go with him. His eyes are popping out of his head. His face is sunken. Great.
So a question I had about this whole scene is, like, they make a big deal about the blue lip thing, and I can't tell if that's from something they ingested or if it's just like, oh, they drank blueberry flavored Fresh Aid and their lips got stained, which is what happens when you drink some of these drinks. Like, I
also,
can't
a lot
tell.
of dead people have blue lips.
Yeah.
That's not actually that weird.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a being dead thing. And how many blue drinks are blueberry flavored? I thought they were always blue raspberry.
I don't know.
Or like Glacier Freeze.
Yeah, Glacier.
Don't get me started on Glacier Freeze. Ugh.
Windex flavor. Delicious.
Yeah, so the blue lip thing, like, I was like, what is the point of that? But people keep coming back to it and saying, like, they had blue lips. You know what that means. Like, no, I don't. Help me out here.
The coroner made it sound like it was because of the drink, so that's what I thought it was, but it keeps getting brought up more, so I'm not as certain. Then the coroner says that Dilton Doyley's body showed signs of stress, which I thought, like chewed fingernails, some premature gray hairs, but he meant the runic symbols carved into the young man's back.
Some stress.
So I just Googled it, and cyanide poisoning and carbon monoxide poisoning both cause particularly blue lips because of the way the body handles oxygen right before death.
All right. So
All right.
it's a cyanide
And
thing.
yeah, they did drink cyanide, yes.
Yes, it's called cyanosis, which I actually knew that it was called cyanosis, but I didn't... It's not always caused by cyanide, so that's confusing.
Huh.
Maybe they were referring to cyan color, like blue.
That's a... Wow.
I say we say sayonara to the cyanosis conversation.
Just a little side note.
I wanna put out one of my favorite lines in this scene. If you had to guess, murder or suicide, I think it's way worse than that. It's murder-side.
They call that homicide, Dr. Curdle, but good try.
I thought it was pretty clear it looked like some sort of suicide pact thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then that means there's probably someone or some force pulling the strings behind the scenes. I don't know why there's this murder or suicide debate.
Yeah, later on, they find pretty compelling evidence that it was suicide, and Jughead's still like, but it might not be. So I feel like that's a clear signal to us, the viewer, that it was murder, even though they have no reason to think that it wasn't suicide.
Did anyone else really enjoy that Jughead's taking pictures of Dilton Doyley's body and then developing the photos later because in a dark room, because digital photography just isn't real art.
Yeah,
Yes.
I loved that, and I just imagined him like hanging up the photos thinking like, damn, why didn't I just whip out my iPhone? Why do I always do this?
Another great line I want to point out is the coroner gives a little monologue about how this is the true face of evil, and it's way darker than Jason Blossom's killing or the Black Hood, who I assume was the villain of the last season.
Whatever it is, it's darker than what happened to Jason Blossom or what the Black Hood did. No, what we're looking at here, I believe, is the true face of evil.
And I just love this show's ham-fisted attempts to convince us that this is the dark season.
Mm-hmm.
Trust us, this is way darker than season 1 or 2. Or, I mean, the killers we were talking about.
I just assumed that it was like he has killed all of them before and he just wants everyone to like really get that he's really bad, you know? Because he's obviously the one who killed Jason Blossom and everyone else.
Yeah.
The next thing blew my mind. So the kid Ben, who didn't die, Dilton passed away from the poison, but Ben's in critical condition. They say his full name is Ben Button. So he's Benjamin Button?
Yes. He
Why?
ages backwards and stars in mediocre Oscar bait dramas.
Why did you make that choice? Maybe it's a character from the comics that I don't know, but really, it just seemed like laughable to name a character Benjamin Button.
Yeah, that really pushed my buttons.
It seems like it'd be pretty easy to fix, too. Like, just name him Brian or something, and you can still have the fun alliteration or whatever.
Yeah. Name him Ben Gates after Nicolas Cage's character in the National Treasure movies.
Those movies are a national treasure.
Yeah, but as we dive further into this book of secrets, we meet Edgar Evernever's daughter, Evelyn.
Who is a creepy cult farm girl in this show and also was in a creepy farm cult in the show Orphan Black. So this is incredibly specific typecasting that's happening to this girl. And I feel kind of bad for her.
Dang.
She like wears the same kind of outfits. It's a lot.
Yeah, she looks like a cross between someone sent from the past to spread typhus among the population and sort of background extra in that 70s show with the way she's dressed.
Yeah, she's got like a smock.
Yes! Unlike Veronica, Cheryl, and Betty, who they put on a whole shitload of makeup, they look like they specifically scraped this poor girl's face just to make her look more like colorless and disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
The weird thing is she doesn't really add anything to this episode. She just kind of shows up and says, by the way, I saw you had a seizure. Well, that's it for today.
Yeah, she drops by like, hey, just so you know, I'm not going to tell anyone you had a seizure. Have a good day, Betty.
And then, like, she comes back at the end to witness a second seizure and doesn't say anything. So her only line is, I won't tell anyone you had a seizure. Bye.
Oh, I see. I saw her the second time and I was like, oh, she causes seizures with her eyes.
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
I don't know what else conclusion we would draw because she was there with Betty. She was there with Ethel. That's her thing.
Man, seizure-causing vision is, like, the worst X-Man power.
Yeah, that's incredibly specific.
And so we get to Veronica visiting Archie, and she notices he's sitting oddly.
Why are you sitting that way?
I'm just a little sore, Ronnie, that's all.
Sore from what?
Working out, there's an amazing gym here.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, oh my God, the prison took your personal belongings from you? I have never heard of that happening.
So there's another line in here that didn't make sense. While they're discussing this, Archie asks Veronica a question. He's like, hey, how are things going with opening the speakeasy? And I think Mad Dog's just dragged him into this world of like prohibition. And Veronica's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I run a chocolate shop.
Yeah, I'm unclear. Is she turning the chocolate shop into a speakeasy, which seems like a mistake, or is she just opening a second restaurant that is...
Oh, I don't know. I would
A
be very
speakeasy.
into like you have to say a password and then one of the booths opens up into like a little staircase and you go down and drink in a bar. That would make Pops way more fun.
It would add an entire new element. I was completely lost at this, and I didn't know why that was brought up. Nothing was said about it before or after. And I'm like, isn't the main thing here that Archie's getting the crap kicked out of him in prison and getting his stuff stolen?
My favorite part, though, is he also says, like, and how is it running student government for me? You know, the thing all imprisoned people care about.
It's never seemed more important than it does right now. Who will sell those fundraiser chocolates?
I lie awake at night thinking about that.
So Veronica, she's back at Pop's. Cheryl comes in to try and torment her. Veronica kicks her out saying, hey, I own Pop's, get lost. And Cheryl starts being weirdly helpful and suggests that Veronica team up with the Innocence Project, which is a great suggestion.
Yeah, well, what she says exactly is that she should work on getting her boyfriend sprung.
Yeah.
which I feel like Veronica's probably got covered.
Does she, though?
I made a promise to Archie that when he gets out, I'll have everything in place waiting for him. And that includes this stupid presidency.
Just a suggestion, but maybe you should channel that rage into something more productive. Like getting your boyfriend sprung.
Yeah, I like that these teens have rewatched Making a Murderer multiple times and know all about the West Memphis 3, but don't know what the Innocence Project is until Cheryl points it out. That makes absolutely no sense.
Who knows? So, has anyone else noticed that not just in locker room scenes, but all the time now, Cheryl is wearing next to no clothing? Like, they have some sort of rule in casting where if the entire ensemble can't fit into a Band-Aid box, then Cheryl's not going to wear it.
Yes.
She comes into Pop's dress in, like, half of a skirt.
I mean, she looks great and she can pull it off, but man, they're getting ridiculous with those outfits.
It's absurd at this point.
And then Cheryl ends the scene by saying, you know what? I'm not going to eat at Pops. I'm going to head out to TGI Thursdays. And this line drove me crazy. Like, we all know it's TGI Fridays because people actually say, thank God it's Friday. No one has ever said, thank God it's Thursday.
Fuck Thursday. It's worst day of the week.
What person on earth would say something like this? And I did some digging and it turns out no person on earth did say it. Hunter, I have a clip for you.
Greetings, brethren. I hope you are enjoying the delicious frozen broccoli and exciting salads I have had catered for this meeting. Tell me, are you all mastering your human food?
Supreme Leader, I don't understand this soup. There's so much liquid covering all of the minced quesadilla parts. Am I supposed to eat that too?
No, Klaatu, eat around the liquid part of the soup, just like any normal person would. Now, how is our writing for the human popular cultural television show, Riverdale going?
Terrible news. Our episode script has been rejected by the network.
Oh no, Klaatu, did they say why?
They couldn't clear licensing for the TGI Fridays trademark, so we can't use it in our script.
Ugh, humans and their trademark laws. Is there anything we can do to fix it?
They asked if we could use our extensive knowledge of popular culture to create convincing sounding analogs to TGI Fridays instead.
Us? Really? We can give it a shot, I guess. What if we just kept the TGI part and then changed the day of the week? Quick, what is the second favorite Earth Day?
Ooh, I wanna say Monday?
Are you sure? I could have sworn it was Tuesday.
Couldn't we just ask a human?
No, Klaatu, what are you thinking? That would blow our deep cover as an extraterrestrial filmmaking crew from Gort sent here to observe popular culture for a thrilling nature documentary.
Well, then what can we do?
Let's just call it TGI Thursdays. I'm sure humans don't care all that much about days of the week anyway. No one will know the difference. Now, please, pass me some more of those delicious styrofoam pellets to snack on. I can't get enough of their mild plastic flavor and smooth, foamy texture.
So yeah, the Riverdale writers are actually aliens. Thanks to the dark web for finding this clip for us.
Confirmed Riverdale writers are aliens? This explains so much about why they don't understand how events that happen on one day flow over to the next.
Yes.
They have a different concept of time altogether.
Time is a flat circle.
And so then Bughead, they visit Ben in the hospital. And he's unresponsive, but his mom explains, oh, he was such a good boy, but he's been secretive, and he's having nightmares, and his piano teacher was murdered.
Ben's always been a bit of an odd duck, you could say. Kept to himself, especially after his piano teacher was murdered.
I found out, I don't know if you guys want me to spoil this, so
was it Grundy?
If we don't want it. It was
Of course
Grundy.
it was Grundy.
She got murdered. Okay, wait, this was last season that we missed?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question in here was, A, was it Hal? B, did he kill Grundy?
I definitely watched Miss Grundy in season 2 get murdered with, like, I think a piano wire. But I do not know. I don't think we knew who it was. Yeah.
I just want like a violin bow delivered to Archie. It's a Sicilian message. But no, like, wait, was Ben also fucking Grundy?
I assume so.
Probably. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean. She taught him music lessons, so yeah.
It's also weird, like, Grundy was supposed to leave the very small town of Riverdale, but was still tutoring kids from it. It's very confusing.
He was in the next town over in Greendale.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
All right, at least that's some closure. I did say we hadn't seen the last of Grundy, and I would have been right.
Turns out we did.
I would have been right if we hadn't skipped season 2. So we also find out that Benjamin Button, this is as fun to me as Alice Cooper being named Alice Cooper. We find out that Ethel was visiting him in the hospital and leaving Blair Witch-style totems.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm along for the ride. I'm all on board for this. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then Sheriff Mineta arrives to chew out the kids for, interfering with his police investigation. And then right away does the really professional thing of asking his deputy to brief him on that same investigation right in front of them. I
wanted him to have some slightly different lines. I wanted him to use the phrase sleuth shaming and explain that that's what it happens when sleuths get shamed.
Yes.
And he does all this while saying, I'm so much better than Sheriff Keller. I don't know what kind of ship he ran, but I don't trust teenagers to investigate for me.
Now let me make sure you're briefed on everything that's going on here.
Yeah, 2 seconds after he's like, I'm a professional, I get things done, I know how to run a tight ship. One of his deputies is like, hey, there's a missing kid. I told you about this like 45 minutes ago. You said to hang on because you were running to get coffee. What do you want me to do?
He's like, thanks, man. Just drop those case files on the ground and let's go.
So Jughead investigates Ethel and learns that Dilton Doily had a secret bunker where they all played their tabletop RPG together. And Jughead is inexplicably surprised.
Dilton Doily has a secret bunker in the woods?
By survivalist Dilton Doily having a secret forest bunker, when that is by far the least surprising thing about him.
I'm just surprised there's only one.
I even called that in the episode where, Sarah, you were talking about how Dilton was reading the basic survivalist manual or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, something, like end of the world bunker. We knew that this was something that he was entirely capable of having.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure he's got like a series of tunnels throughout the whole town. He can get into the prison any second that he wants to.
That'd be great if he just faked his own death and he pops. So he's like, Archie, let's get out of here. I've got a great game to show you. Yeah, Ethel cracks in no time. Jughead and Betty do a really good, like, good cop, bad cop, where Jughead is, menacing and intimidating as only a man of his stature can be.
I just have to note that Kevin just muted one of my jokes.
Sorry,
Wow.
I didn't know you were going to jump in. There were sirens happening behind us.
And I feel like that just adds power and intrigue to my jokes.
Now I want to know.
The moment's gone.
Oh, god
Whatever.
damn it. So yeah, Ethel cracks in no time. She pretty much tells them everything in about 3 seconds. She's like, I'm not going to tell you anything about our secret forest bunker and the fact that Ben and I were dating and all the poison and other stuff. Oh my god, wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to feel like she and Archie would be perfect together.
Yeah.
They're both just, like, so smart.
But that's enough, like, realistic teen drama. Let's go to Veronica deciding to start a Riverdale chapter of the Innocence Project and needing a letter of endorsement from her mommy.
I'm starting a chapter of the Innocence Project here in Riverdale.
This is not how this works. There already is a New York chapter of the Innocence Project. You would, like, just get, connected to the local chapter.
I don't know anything about the Innocence Project. I didn't know it was real until this episode, so Sarah, you are a wealth of information. I learn something new every week.
Yeah, Sarah was explaining to me it's a national organization and it does state chapters.
Mm-hmm. I've actually toyed with the idea of getting involved with the Portland branch because I know a lawyer, a defense attorney who could hook me up, and I'm really good at doing research and I get really into true crime, so I feel like it's a good match.
Yes. Oh my god.
If I had more free time.
I learned so much every week from you guys. This week has already been high school student government and all the stuff about getting convicted criminals acquitted.
But which of those was more important to learn? Be honest.
That's, it's neck and neck right now. Maybe if some more sprinkles of information come out, we might have something new. Oh, I learned about cyanosis, too.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
They're going to rename this podcast Hunter Gets Unstupider.
If you go to the Innocence Project website, they also have tons of information about all of the convictions that they've overturned and all of the terrible fake forensic science that's still being used in courtrooms today that was the basis of all of those convictions. Stuff like blood splatter and hair analysis and tool mark analysis, bite mark analysis. All that stuff is absolute garbage with no scientific basis and has gotten a lot of people killed.
Yeah.
So that's a fun time.
Holy shit. All right, I'm already on the website, but before we get derailed.
Right, so Mad Dog tells Archie that he was stupid to think he could change the system and blah, 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 become an animal or die
I'm not
like
a part
one.
of your system.
Yeah.
Be an animal before they kill you like one.
I thought this was a missed opportunity for Mad Dog to do some cool barking.
Yeah. That'd be great. I'm not sure the wordplay of become an animal before they kill you like one really works.
No. It's not quite how it works.
Archie remembers one thing from school, pushes his glasses up on his nose, and says, well, technically, humans are animals. And Mad Dog proceeds to beat him with a bar of soap and a pillowcase.
I'm a canine just like you, Mad Dog. Wait, right? Is that right?
You're a mad dog. I'm a bulldog. We're like the same.
Same.
It's a pretty cliche prison scene, but I do want to take this opportunity to say that I think the actor who plays Mad Dog has a lot more intensity and energy to him than KJ Apa, and I already started liking him better than Archie.
He's pretty compelling.
He's also extremely hot and makes Archie look scrawny. So,
Yeah.
like, way to go, Mad Dog.
This guy
awesome.
is an Adonis. He's built like a brick shithouse. I mean,
oh yeah.
And I mean that in only the best way. Like, he is just ripped. Dear God. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, we all got a little too into Mad
his
Dog.
upper pectoral development. Like, holy shit. Then they have him doing like seated dips later in the episode, and I was like, man, I gotta start doing more of those. I want to do more like Mad Dog. I'm not even kidding. I did them like the next day.
Meanwhile, Reggie and Veronica bring Archie some hot new Adidas shoes, which Archie immediately wears to draw attention to himself in the prison yard.
I'm not gonna lie though, those were great shoes.
Yeah.
They're clean, so I kind of want those shoes. I'm not even kidding. This episode had to put a lot of influence on me. The Adidas product placement worked.
Two little notes
I was
here.
like, when am I gonna get my next Adidas employee store discount? I'm there.
Two notes here. I love the comically oversized visitor pass badge that they all wear. It's like the size of someone's face, and the only words on it are "Visitor's Pass."
I didn't notice that at all. I was just focused on the fact that imposter Reggie is there, and I was displeased.
I hate him so much.
The other thing is we do get to see KJ App with his shirt off, and I love that his full body beating has resulted in like one small bruise that covers like one shoulder blade.
You know, that's it. The rest of it, they beat him with a sack of oranges so it doesn't leave bruises. Why do I know so much about how to beat people without leaving bruises?
I don't know. I didn't realize the opening I'd written for us was so accurate. Hunter, you're a menace.
This is terrible.
Just please, don't be a menace to South Central.
Oh, God. This is when Archie goes back into the schoolyard and he makes the big high school football announcement, which I feel like you guys definitely have some choice words on this.
I dropped out in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my nana. That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football. But you will.
Well, I mean, it just is so realistic how 50 incarcerated youth just stand around listening quietly and respectfully as Archie talks about, like, the new kid talks about football. Like, that's just really how it is in prison.
Yeah, this was a cringy line for me because Archie is like, we need to like be a part of like sports groups and join clubs, and someone comes out and is like, I've been in prison since I was 4 because I had to drop out to run drugs to help out my impoverished mother. And Archie is like, then you don't know the highs and lows of high school football yet. But you will. And I just love how his personal experience is so limited. He can't relate to anyone with an actual struggle. Look, I'm sure you've been out of prison since you were 2. You know, you shanked your best friend for a Tootsie Roll Pop. and you'll never be clean again. But I'm kind of talking about how great like high school sports are right now. So can you calm down for a bit?
What if you wanted to feel something real?
Yeah.
Sports.
So that his suggestion is that all the inmates should have a football game, and that's gonna solve problems. But I did love the British ghoulie is the one who reveals that he dropped out of school when he was like 9 to run drugs, and I want that story. Holy shit,
Yeah.
that's badass.
Run drugs for his nana, like his grandma. I need to know way more about this.
Yes.
I want Nana Ghoulie involved in this show.
But instead of that, we just get Mad Dog backing up Archie like, yeah, let's show them we're not animals. And Archie's like, and the MVP will get my shoes.
Hopefully they fit.
Yeah. I do like that. I think I made this joke at some point in the last 2 episodes, like, it's just going to become the longest yard. And it did so quickly in just 2 episodes.
Yeah. I don't know why all the inmates agreed to play football. I think the British ghoulie is probably thinking of a different type of football.
Agree. He's going to be so disappointed.
He's like, oh no, I'm really good at this. It's a cultural thing.
I just really like, though, that they are just going to do their darndest to get even more concussions and have even more frontal lobe damage so that they have even less emotional regulation. That'll keep them out of jail, for sure.
Yeah, these kids already
Good
have
call.
issues. A violent sport solves everything. No one ever got heated. Tensions never rose between people because of competition.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what we should do? Football, but without helmets. Great idea.
Look, it's not like Archie has any more brain cells to spare, so, like, what harm are we really doing here?
Yeah. He's basically a vegetable. Very handsome vegetable.
KJ Appa, when you finally listen to this podcast, I know you're a big fan. Please don't beat us up for the many, many mean things we say about you.
It's not him that's stupid, probably. He can't control Archie's lines. I'm sure KJ Appa can read. I'm sure he can do things other than ask questions that begin with how and who. But the Riverdale writers never give him a chance.
Yeah.
He's bright enough to understand music theory, so he's probably got some smarts that Archie doesn't.
Probably, yeah. So, back to the Cooper household. FP and Alice confront Juggy and Betty and tell them to stop investigating. Alice reveals Betty's seizure, much to Betty's embarrassment, and Jughead is very worried, but he's like basically dragged out by his ear by his dad.
FP was just at the Cooper house when they came over. Are FP and Alice fucking? Did that happen in season 2, or am I reading way too far into this?
I don't know.
I mean, I have a small spoiler about this.
Is it a spoiler or is it just something from season 2?
Something for season 2.
Please reveal it, because I think that they started banging.
I know that at one point they did bang, like in high school.
Ooh, well, FP's looking to rekindle.
So I wouldn't be shocked if that was happening again. Potentially, that's true.
Interesting.
I also really like that Mineta is like so on it that his top priority is letting parents know that their children visited a friend at the hospital, which is a huge public safety concern.
Yeah, aren't people allowed to visit kids in the hospital? Because they did go to school with him, and Jughead was his former coworker. We found out Ben worked at the Twilight Drive-In. He was the one in, like, episode 3 that Kevin ordered a hot dog and a Coke from.
Right, like they present it as like, we heard you were sneaking around in that public building, which you were allowed to do. Like what?
It would have been different if Ben's mom was like, get out of my son's room, I can't have you snooping around. But she was having a polite conversation with them and seemed touched that his classmates came to visit him.
Yeah.
You know, but it all ties into this deeper story that gets revealed that just adds to my confusion later.
Yeah. Alice later apologizes to Betty about revealing the seizure because she's a changed woman. And then Betty just immediately sneaks out because she didn't care at all.
So Jughead and Betty are supposed to meet Ethel and go out to the bunker at night, which seems safe for so many reasons, you know, as if there isn't supposed to be a Gargoyle King and as if the Ghoulies are not actively hunting for Jughead and Betty. And of course they run into the Gargoyle King.
Classic wooden gargoyle.
Yeah, it didn't look like a gargoyle or a king.
No.
I thought it was a pretty badass costume design, though. Like, it's pretty appropriately intimidating with those bloody, spindly twigs. But it does make me a little worried that this isn't going to be a supernatural thing, because that's pretty clearly a costume even in universe.
I mean, Jughead suggests that maybe it's Ethel on stilts. And I was like, oh, please, that's a great idea. I'm into that.
Ethel is still totally fine when they run into her next time, implying she either got out to the woods totally cool, Gargoyle King didn't mess with her, she was the Gargoyle King when she put on stilts in a costume, or she just bailed on them and never went to the woods and was trying to lead them into a Gargoyle King trap because she's a tool of the supernatural.
We'll never know.
Probably not, because it's Riverdale.
Yeah, I do like that after getting chased by the Gargoyle King, they just go and de-stress at Pops, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't Jughead just call up Fangs, Sweet Pea, and Cheryl and say, all right, guys, let's go back en force? They have a whole grip of friends who have no shame with carrying a lot of weapons.
Right.
Yeah, Cheryl can just grab some silver arrows, which possibly kill a Gargoyle King, who knows?
It's worth a shot. But, I don't know, it's Jughead and Betty's date, you know? This is a nice night out. Go get chased by a supernatural horror, get a milkshake, and laugh about it.
And I ask you to investigate a double suicide/murder?
Weirdly, being in the woods with you investigating something crazy is the least stressful, most normal thing I can think of.
Sounds like a pretty good thing to me.
This is all foreplay.
I would absolutely go explore a creepy bunker and then get a milkshake as a date.
Speaking of Cheryl, so Veronica promised Archie that she would visit him for the football game, but first she goes to Cheryl, who is once again in the women's locker room, just wrapped in only a towel, and I just have to ask, will all of Cheryl's dialogue be exclusively delivered in a state of undress in the locker room?
Probably at this point.
But yeah, she reveals that she has a plan, and she will graciously let Cheryl keep the position that she is actually entitled to if the River Vixens will help her with something.
This leads to a cringe scene. They need to stop having dance and musical numbers in this show ASAP.
Yes.
It's bad.
Wait, this is all prelude to the football game, and as we mentioned before, all the inmates are playing football with no pads, so I thought they were doing two-hand touch or something. Not the case.
Nope. Although Mad Dog isn't there, he hints that he has something else the warden needs him to do and says, hey, the warden's corrupt. You don't want to be in the position I'm in. Don't get tapped. And then says he'll be in a real prison next year and wishes Archie good luck.
And then he gets hauled off. They're like, oh, Mad Dog, got some other business for you. And the rest of the inmates troop out to the football field.
Yeah.
And obviously that means Mad Dog is going to be all well and fine.
Yes.
There's nothing suspicious about any of this.
Nothing strange about it. So this is where the cheerleaders show up to the prison yard?
Yeah, they show up in uniform to do a cheer version of Jailhouse Rock. And I do love that after all the speeches about let's not behave like animals, the entire prison just runs to the fence and rattles it and screams and shrieks because they're so turned on by the appearance of cheerleaders. Just leering and drooling with such intensity.
Whipping their dicks out, putting them through the chain link fence.
I did want to point out, though, that in the original version of this episode, we actually got to hear the planning session for this cheer routine. Yeah, I did some digging. I found out this very normal clip where Veronica just explains to the Vixens what she wants to do. Should we play that?
Absolutely, sure thing. Okay, Vixens, thank you for coming to my planning session / lingerie party. Please take off all your clothes before I begin explaining my very detailed plan.
What's this all about, Veronica? I mean, aside from me getting the chance to show off my cherry red, incredible perfect shape bra with lace detail by Victoria's Secret, on sale now for $79.99 through October at select Victoria's Secret outlets.
And that bra is incredible, Cheryl. But I wanted to discuss something more important we could do for Archie. Josie, what are you wearing? Take those panties off and put on the designer Calvin Klein silk thong I got for you specifically for tonight.
Wow, this really shows off my curves. It's like there's hardly any material there at all, and it makes me feel like I'm in need of a good spanking. Ooh, Thank you, Ginger.
Exactly. That's why we're here, to spend extended time in our underwear, admiring each other's bodies, suggestively touching each other, and only after that, we'll have any kind of discussions relevant to our lives. You know, like women do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. We do that. Speaking of which, I really love your Fleur de Mal see-through negligee, Ronnie. But I'm just worried we'll spend too much time planning and there won't be enough time for a sexy pillow fight.
With goose feathers spraying everywhere as we giggle and wrestle in a dirty, dirty mud pit.
Focus, ladies. We can wrestle in a mud pit after I tell you my plan to help Archie. It's a little complicated, so I need you all to pay close, nubile attention.
Well, what is it?
My plan is we show up in our uniforms and cheer for the football game.
Wow, you're right. This did need to be a full planning session. I'm glad we all undressed for this.
Yes, this was an incredibly necessary way to strategize and not at all a cheap, male-gazy way to entice teenage male viewers.
So it's settled. Now that that's done, last one in the mud pit gets a sticky maple.
Ooh, whose hands are those? I didn't say stop.
Wow! I think the most shocking thing to me about that scene is that they cut it when this show goes into such loving detail and takes every opportunity to show our female protagonists mostly nude.
Yeah, maybe it was just cut for time or something. I don't know.
It seems like something Riverdale would have made time for.
I guess it ended up in the bonfire of the vanities.
This scene, though, they should have cut the whole dance number instead, because this is another cringeworthy scene. Other question I have is, Josie's on the cheerleading squad here, and this is one episode after she told handsome and upstanding citizen Sweet Pea that she didn't have time for other things because she was focused on music. So, like...
Yeah, this is her music focus. Cheerleading.
I would have ditched the cheerleading for the dude that you clearly like, but...
It's pretty sad. And my favorite part about this, though, is apparently the warden calls Hiram Lodge, and he shows up to tell Veronica to stop it. And it's not even like he shows up later. He shows up before the song is done. And Jailhouse Rock is only 3 minutes long. How quick was that phone call? How far away was Hiram?
He was just hanging out down at the end of the road anyway. Hiram's everywhere. He wears... Is it just a pin, or does he have a brooch? He has this octopus, Hail Hydra style thing. Like,
is it a lapel? I don't know anything about
lapel
menswear.
pin sounds like it might be right.
But I'm just gonna say brooch. He's got a brooch now, and it symbolizes the fact that, you know, he has arms everywhere and he's reaching into every cookie jar. He controls everything. So they haven't stopped with symbolic pins.
I mean, I don't understand any of this plot line, and it's very boring, but at least Hiram is nice to look at. And just, like, much respect, Kelly Ripa. Well done.
Is that Kelly Ripa's husband?
Uh-huh.
Really? Huh.
Is he also an 80s or 90s star that I don't know about?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at his background.
Mark Consuelos. Mm-hmm.
He's chiseled.
Oh, yeah.
Definition of chiseled features.
He's got the jawlines of a god.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, dark, sparkling eyes.
And so when he nods with those beautiful, dark, sparkling eyes, the warden is immediately taken in. He's like, oh, I've got to shut down the riot like Hiram wants me to.
Oh, heavens. I'm all flustered. Beat up those children, guards!
Archie turns into a superhero and punches out 3 or 4 cops with 1 hit each.
And the warden is completely getting off on these children getting beaten, judging by the way he's looking at this.
So here's the thing. The kids were just doing their football game, which they left the fence where they were ogling the women, go back to playing an orderly game of football. Then the warden calls in the guards and is like, stop the riot, and has all the inmates get the shit beat out of them with nightsticks. There's a bunch of high school cheerleaders out there. I have to believe that at least one of them would have her phone and pull it out and start recording this clear prison brutality.
That was my note too. Like, come on, Veronica, do something useful. You all have cell phones with recording features on them.
But where do they fit in the cheerleading uniforms?
I just can't believe Cheryl would be that far away from Twitter.
Oh, never.
She was definitely like Facebook live streaming the entire cheer to her thousands of followers.
Yeah, so it was really weird that the warden said, with all these witnesses here, it's a great time to brutalize these underage inmates.
Yeah.
And yeah, Archie does go full Batman, though, and just, like, breaks several jaws. Is this where we find out that Mad Dog supposedly died?
Yes, and Archie, being the font of wisdom we know him to be, says, what? He wasn't even there. And it's like, yeah, Archie, come on, pick up on the obvious hints the captain is dropping. Mad Dog was obviously murdered to teach you a lesson.
No, he wasn't murdered. He just went to a different farm upstate. It's fine.
I don't want him to be dead. Like, throughout the episode was like, I like this character. He's a very captivating actor. I need some more workout tips from him.
Yeah, I really hope Mad Dog isn't dead.
I want him back. God.
I already liked him so much more than Archie.
Yes.
I'd gladly trade Archie and Veronica for Mad Dog.
100%.
In a minute.
All of our favorite side characters disappear.
Meanwhile, Cheryl and Veronica talk about how Hiram is evil, and Veronica is now on a banned list from visiting the prison. And Cheryl's like, no worries, I'll set you up with a fake ID. Seriously, Cheryl is ridiculously helpful this episode.
She's like Clippy in this episode. Oh, hey, it looks like you're trying to break into a prison. Oh, looks like you want to get your boyfriend sprung.
I know this is kind of off topic, but I think we'll all appreciate this digression. And this is my biggest question about the show in season 3, and I should have brought it up back in season 1. Where's Nana Rose? Because Cheryl burned down Thornhill at the end of season 1, and we saw Penelope and Cheryl out front. But, like, Nana Rose is in a wheelchair. Did they ever evacuate her, or did she die in the fire? Are we ever going to see her again?
I'm pretty sure she gets murdered, potentially by Penelope.
What the
I vaguely remember this.
Who would murder an old lady? She's already got 1.5 feet in the grave.
I feel like they make her drink poison or something. I'm not entirely
What is
clear
up with
on
the
this.
show and the poison? This is
I don't know.
So our next scene is when Jughead and Betty go to the bunker, and there's a giant jug in there that's just like jumbo-sized cyanide on it and skull and crossbones, because you can just apparently get that at Walmart.
Absolutely.
It doesn't seem like it'd be that easy.
I guess it is. They just sell jugs of cyanide to teen boys who are well known for never doing anything creepy or desperate.
Yes.
Jughead, no, Betty says, so it was suicide, and Jughead says, or something even more insidious. And I was like, definitely more insidious. Tabletop RPG roleplaying.
Okay, I kind of want to make this Griffins and Gargoyles game, because there was some really cool stuff. There's like cards involved, there's coins, plus some Dungeons and Dragons elements. I was really getting into this.
You would really enjoy Gloomhaven, Hunter.
Haven't played. I would be down. They find all this Griffins and Gargoyles stuff in the bunker when they go to it. And
they also find a cheap jump scare.
Oh, God, that was the worst. And you know from how it was cut and how there was a fade to black that when it was on TV, that was right before commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the missing adventure scout who was just living in the bunker.
And he randomly hisses like a cat for extra emphasis, and it just makes no sense. Like, he's heard them talking outside this whole time. He knows they're just random high school students.
Also, this kid is 11 years old. I don't understand why he's still in this bunker after a day. He would have just wet his pants in fear and ran away.
He would have gotten bored. He's like, I want to go play Fortnite, so fuck this shit.
The only things to drink in this bunker are cyanide and gargoyle and griffin cards.
It was so weird, but hey, they find the missing kid. They tell him Dilton Doily kicked the bucket, and the kid has pretty much no reaction. He's just like, okay.
No one likes Dilton Doily, not even his scouts. Though we do learn, Ethel and Ben weren't dating in real life, just in the game.
Yes, but Princess Etheline isn't dating Ben in real life, only in the game.
The game is real life, Kevin.
You Philistine.
And I want to point out how dumb Ethel's name in the game is. She's Princess Etheline, which Hunter, you and I have played Dungeons and Dragons together. We didn't name our characters like Hun Terminator or Kevinja.
No.
Why not?
Because we're a little more creative than that.
Ethylene sounds like it's some sort of like chemical compound.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's ethylene. Which is coincidentally
Ethylene.
what Dilton definitely died of.
Don't let the days go by.
Ethylene.
Well, there's ethanol and there's ethylene. They go confront Ethel. She has a seizure while Evelyn creepily watches from the corner, and you just know she's using seizure mind powers.
Oh, for sure.
By the way, do seizures make people just awkwardly stick their arms straight up in a claw pose?
Sometimes they
Okay.
can cause like spastic muscle movements like that.
But just like sustained holding it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
All right, yeah, I didn't judge that. It was weird at first. I didn't know what was going on when she first raised her hand.
Because I've only seen seizures represented as like the shaking. So when she did the other stuff, I'm like, this doesn't track with what I've seen of film seizures.
There's a lot of different kinds of seizures.
Got it.
You can have a seizure that's just in your arm.
Oh.
And like be sitting there fine, watching your arm have a seizure.
That's weird. Ethel had been saying stuff about how, like if we talk about this, the Gargoyle King's gonna get upset. And because Evelyn, who's Edgar Evernever's daughter, definitely super caused this seizure, we know that the creepy farm is somehow tied to the Gargoyle King. So definitely Alice is getting mixed up in this whole big mystery as well, and everything ties together.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we're going with this. That's the season.
Yeah, and now we know for certain, and even though like we were pretty skeptical from the beginning, it was not a stress seizure.
No, not at all. It was a supernatural seizure.
Veronica visits Archie in a horrible blonde wig and tells him that she is his Innocence Project representative. And I have to believe Archie was like, "Who are you?"
Betty?
Also, couldn't you get me an actual lawyer? Because that seems like it might be more effective.
Yeah, couldn't Archie's mom maybe put them in touch with some Innocence Project lawyers in the state of New York?
Yeah, that would have already happened in real life, but this is a cute pretend thing they're doing, I guess.
I told you, she's a terrible lawyer. That's why she charged her son full price for her services.
I mean, she's passed bar in the state of New York because she was his defendant in the state. She has some sort of connections there, you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Then the warden comes to Archie and is like, "You've been chosen to be my new Mad Dog." I was never sure what Mad Dog did for the warden besides hold on to his old 45s.
My guess, judging from the warden's approval of Archie's punching skills, is like some kind of like illegal underground boxing or something.
That'd be dope. But when is Archie gonna get his very own turntable and collection of pinup girls to put on his wall? This is where the episode takes a real turn with the secret society. Can someone explain to me what's happening here?
No.
Okay, cool. I'm not the only one that's in the dark.
I have absolutely no idea what's going on here, and I tried paying attention to it, but it didn't make any sense.
It's weird. So I kind of like the twist that all the parents have gone from being just incompetent to like an actively malevolent conspiracy. But from Hermione's speech to the Lodges, the McCoys, the Andrews, the Blossoms, the Coopers, the Joneses, this seems like a Nightmare on Elm Street situation where something from the past is like coming for their children.
Some of us are sworn enemies, but we made a vow in high school.
Yeah, so they're all saying like, "Oh, we said we'd never talk about that night," and something like something bad happened to all of these parental characters back when they were in high school. And whenever they mention that Dilton Doily had blue lips, everyone gasps. There's some mention of someone named Scout, and there's some worry that Scout...
Oh no, the Scout was the Adventure Scout.
Oh, holy shit. I thought there was like a character like To Kill a Mockingbird style.
Oh yeah, I went through that same process. I was like, oh, who is this Scout? And it was only like on like a third rewatch I realized they were talking about the Adventure Scout.
Oh, so yeah, when Hermione was like, now that the Scout's back, he may spill some secrets, and I was like, is the Scout some other weird figure like the Gargoyle King? All right, I'm an idiot. I'm a grade A Archie over here. So Here's my biggest issue with the fact that they know that there's some sort of malevolent force here. Luke Perry's in the room, and tracking back to previous seasons, he was always Mr. like, oh, like Riverdale is such a nice place, and I always believed in this town and how innocent and good it is. And the whole reason that Archie's parents split up is because Luke Perry wouldn't leave Riverdale because he thought it was so nice. If he knows that there's a supernatural horror lurking just beneath the surface, what?
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that episode of Buffy where Giles and his like friends from college had summoned that demon.
Yes.
This is a really current reference. This episode took place in like 1998, so I'm sure everyone's really like up on this one. But yeah, so it's like, and then it comes back to get them, and they're all like, "Oh no, what do we do?" Except that it was way less interesting than that.
I recently started watching Lock and Key because they adopted that comic book series into a Netflix show, and they have some reference to a high school group of friends in a tragedy, but the mystery's played so much better, and there's a lot better suspense and horror element, and it's clear that characters are hiding a lot of stuff. It just put in stark relief the fact that Riverdale was doing this in a really clumsy way.
Yeah, there are so many shows that have some similar elements. Like we've referenced Veronica Mars, Buffy, a lot of different shows, and it's amazing how much better those shows do these same plot lines.
Yes.
It's upsetting almost.
It's the difference between building that in from the beginning versus just stapling it on when it's convenient.
I think they do a choose your own adventure thing where at the end of every episode they just have a list of 5 ideas for the next episode, and they just all vote for what's going to happen next. They're laying the track as this train hurtles along.
It feels like they get a new team in every episode. Like they're just like, fire everyone. Okay, new writer, new director. What are your ideas?
Though I think they're doing like pretty admirably considering they're aliens from the planet.
I agree.
Yeah, doing the best they can without having any background in being human. Then we get our ultimate scene of Jughead and Betty back in the hospital because Ethel had a seizure, and they're like, let's go check on Ben, who was waiting on the windowsill for them to walk in for this exact moment.
And we end on a horrific suicide from a mentally unsound person in this episode about how high school football is the ultimate thing that brings people together. Like, what a weird tonal knot this episode was.
It also weirdly mirrors the scene where Jughead and Betty go to the home for girls to find Polly, and it turns out she's smashed open the window and run out, and there's blood on the window. And they should just stay away from windows, those two. It's not okay.
Don't go visit anyone. There's a 90% chance they will have jumped out the window or will as soon as you walk in. Because Ben's sitting there on the sill, maybe he's just looking at the stars, sees Jughead and Betty, and he's like,
it's over for me.
I'd rather die than talk to these two idiots.
Yeah, he spouts creepy stuff like, I'm gonna be in the kingdom with Doily and the Gargoyle King. You'll be there too.
Please come down, you'll float too. Doesn't he say some line like that? Doesn't he say like, you'll fly too?
I think so.
Something like
That's
that.
his last line, and then he tips over the
But they
edge.
didn't build a bonfire below the hospital. Poor planning, Ben.
If only Archie had been there to start playing Jumper by Third Eye Blind on his guitar, they would have known how to save a life.
Oh, and Kevin was in this episode too. Yeah.
I actually totally forgot about that, even though it's here in my notes.
Yeah.
He had an ROTC uniform just in his closet, just in case he ever decided to join up.
Yeah, so Kevin tries to be intimate with Moose, but Moose is worried that the new ROT instructor, who is his father, will catch them. So Kevin just joins the ROTC thing, and nothing. It didn't go anywhere.
The only thing is this weird thing of Kevin's plotline of joining ROTC has nothing to do with any of the other characters. The only person he interacts with in this entire episode is Moose. And then they go as far, and this to me was as stupid as the TGI Thursdays, of instead of just calling it JROTC, which is Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, they call it RROTC, which I guess is Riverdale Reserve Officer Training Corps. So Riverdale presumably has its own branch of the military, its own private army.
is so confusing because it makes everyone sound like they're stuttering when they try to say RROTC.
Yeah. Is that a trademark thing? You can't say JROTC?
Who knows?
I have no idea. I just really don't like the hat. That's my only comment. They just look like pointy yarmulkes, and I hate it.
They're pretty much like the old style, like, I'm gonna scoop you some ice cream, kid.
Yes.
Style hats.
It's not good. It's not a good look.
Yeah. So who wants to do the wrap up?
I will do the wrap up since Sarah usually volunteers to jump on that grenade. Let's see. The Gargoyle King is real and he's spectacular. All of the adults know why the poisonings are happening, except for Sheriff Mineta, I guess. He's in the dark.
Yeah.
Betty and Jughead will continue investigating because that's their biggest turn on. Archie is now the warden's prison bitch in every sense of the word. And Kevin Keller barely exists.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this, but I love that Betty and Jughead are both like, you know what I'm really into doing with you? Solving crimes. I think it's great.
I don't know, their dynamic just works for some reason. As much as I make fun of them, I still like all the stuff that they do.
I think it's the combination of like, one, they're two of the better actors on the show, and two, they just get the best plot lines.
Yes.
They're the best plot lines. They have very real chemistry, which makes sense because they are dating in real life.
So,
yeah, it just works.
What the heck's gonna happen next? I need some sort of resolution to this, especially around the whole Kevin Keller joining ROTC.
I imagine that like won't come back for like 4 episodes.
Maybe though, it's like that's the secret organization. It's like part of the Gargoyle King's clan or something.
I think the next episode will actually be a deep dive on the history of the policies of Lyndon B. Johnson.
I really hope so.
Well, and the whole Gargoyle King thing is just a giant metaphor for stick and carrot policy. So I'm really excited to meet the Carrot King.
I just want to learn more about how Lyndon Johnson ushered the 1965 Civil Rights Act to passage.
See, no, that's what we need. It's just them in history class learning about Lyndon Johnson. Archie, I don't know, maybe the warden is just like, you're my new mad dog. I need someone to be in my book club with me so we can discuss Shakespeare and Spencer.
Being my new mad dog just means that you bring me a new Mad Dog 2020 whenever I run out of the old one. Fear me.
You guys have any cringy lines?
Oh, I think we covered all of mine. Holy shit.
I've got a few more. During Archie's speech in the prison yard, he said, straight up, most of us are going to be here for a long time. It's a juvenile detention center. Most of you are pretty close to 18. I don't think that's correct.
I mean, most of them are already 25 by the looks of it, so I think they should already be out.
Cheryl also said at one point, let's be reals.
That was bad. I mean, it's just the whole, like, you don't know the triumphs and defeats, the highs and epic highs and lows of high school football.
That was the winner. Though as Archie's girlfriend and former running mate came pretty close.
Yes. What was Ethel's line whenever they confront her about griffins and gargoyles and they say it was just a game, and she says, it's more than a game, you Philistines.
I love that. I mean, I think maybe it just validates me because I'm pretty into board games, but like compared to Ethel, I like hate them. And so that just feels good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next with the main plot. Apparently Nana Rose is dead, so that honestly blows all of my predictions out of the water, because I was going to predict that Nana Rose was somehow pulling the strings and tied to the Gargoyle King because we know that she has mystical powers, but
yeah,
she died in season 2, so that was my whole big prediction and keystone element to this.
Honestly, this episode gave me such whiplash, I don't even know where to go with predictions.
I hope we get back to the Ghoulies gang war. I want to see more of Fangs. I want to see what other nicknames the Serpents have up their sleeves. I was kind of stoked to see this weird, outlandish Mad Max, Cheryl as Robin Hood thing go down, but we've sidestepped that completely.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the next episode is learning about the lives of the Twilight Drive-In workers, and the Twilight Drive-In is just mysteriously back.
It could happen.
Anything could happen.
I think the most obvious direction to go would be that Edgar Evernever is the Gargoyle King.
Yeah.
I hope, though, that they, like, throw us a curveball and it's really Evelyn.
Who plays Edgar Evernever? Is it like Zach Morris or something?
No
we'll
idea.
find out.
He hasn't appeared yet, probably because he's the Gargoyle King.
I just hope he's as handsome as Hiram.
Me too. Me too.
Scores, you guys?
Oh, I was gonna say also, I hope that that the title was correct and that being the warden's new mad dog does have to do something with sexual slavery, because that would make Archie interesting again. Or not again.
Let's not go too far. I don't know if Archie can be interesting.
My score is 3 out of 5 sets of elevated dips.
Yeah.
My score is 3 or 4 knocked down riot police. Probably 3.
Yep. 3 out of 5 bottles of clearly marked cyanide.
I love that because it's just like Juggo cyanide. Poisoning rats since 1933. Warning, do not mix with Kool-Aid.
Fresh aid only. Blueberry flavor preferred. Lemon lime acceptable.
What's the next episode?
As above, so below.
Wait, what is that a reference to? Isn't it a Latin saying?
I'm going to guess, just going out on a limb here, probably a reference to some type of film noir movie.
Apparently there's a 2014 film. Why have I heard that saying?
Thanks for listening to Gritty Reboot. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please leave a review because it really helps us grow.
In the meantime, you can reach us on Twitter at GrittyRebootPod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our website, grittyrebootpodcast.com, for info about the show, past episodes, and upcoming news. We look forward to seeing you next time.